One time I was going to have dinner with a family. I turned to the 16-year-old next to me in the car and I said, "Oletko koskaan maistunut siili?" Siili is hedgehog and silli is pickled herring. And he looked aghast because I had just asked him if he had ever tasted hedgehog instead of if he had ever tasted pickled herring. He laughed. He was like, "No, A, or N." His dad was chuckling as he was driving us back to their home about my Finnish mistakes. Something that was always really surprising to me throughout the time that I was in Finland is that the Finns would be very surprised when an American could speak Finnish. They were shocked, and there were times with older Finns that couldn't hear my American accent sometimes as well. They would ask me if I was Finnish, probably because they could hear a little bit of an accent, but they weren't completely sure if that's what they were hearing or not. And so that was kind of crazy to me because I felt like I made a lot of mistakes in speaking Finnish, but having had probably blonde hair and blue eyes and fair skin may have helped my case in looking a little bit more like a Finn. Some of the things that I really admire about the Finns and their culture are, first, I love their simplicity of life. They have a mindset of simplicity, of having what you need for today, and that's enough. And I think that that's manifest in a lot of different ways. In a lot of the Finnish homes that I visited, they had what they needed and they didn't have very many extraneous items in their home, and they would go to the grocery store every day to get what they needed for the day. I loved that. Things were pretty simple, and I loved that they didn't seem to feel the need to add things in their places of nature, except for, I guess, cabins, but there was just this beautiful simplicity about the way that things are there in that country. One day in the middle of winter in a city called Lifey, I was on my way with a friend to go teach a family. It was snowing really, really hard, and we stopped this woman who was running to the train, and she was willing to talk to us for just a second, and we just asked her, "What brings you joy?" And she threw her arms out wide and she was like, "Lunta," which means snow, and she was so happy that it was snowing. And it was really amazing to just see how the Finns loved their nature. They loved it, they took care of it, and I really appreciated that. I love how green Finland is and how much of the country is covered with forest and lakes. And I don't feel like that their people take that nature for granted. They definitely thoroughly enjoy it on their vacations that they take. Again, with that simplistic lifestyle, a lot of times their idea of a vacation is just going and being at a cabin by a lake for 3 weeks. And they don't really have necessarily any solid plans of all the things that they're going to do, but they just relax and their kids play and they get together with family, and it's not everything planned to the very last second, and they might go out in some canoes or something, but they just spend the time really relaxing. Another thing that I really love is that it seems as though the Finnish people are not in a hurry to finish their school. They're not running this race to get done with school as fast as they can and get into a career and make it ahead of other people. And maybe they are, and I just didn't see that. Maybe there are some like that, but I appreciated that. And I think often back to that way of being when I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself or getting overwhelmed or thinking about all the things that I would like to do. I think back to that mindset, that lifestyle of just slowing down and not thinking that everything needs to be done as quickly as possible. I appreciate how innovative the Finnish people are. I feel like that a lot of that is manifest in their designs. They just built within the past couple of years a library called Oodi in Helsinki. It's an incredible library. There are so many different things that you can use there, and the design is incredible for people with all different kinds of learning styles and spaces, and there's space for you to study outside on the balcony. And I think it's just beautiful that they're always thinking about how they can create a conducive environment to learning and progressing. Something that was also very surprising to me is that at first the Finnish people, they're not overly friendly like a lot of Americans are, and they're very genuine people. So when you ask them how they're doing, they're going to tell you. It's like if they're having a bad day, or sometimes like if you try to talk to them, if they are not wanting to talk, they'll clearly let you know that they're not willing to talk and they won't pretend like they want to. So that was something that I really appreciated, just how genuine the Finnish people were. Sometimes you would try to talk to them on the street and they'd put a hand up and say "Ei kiitos," or just respond in a way that like clearly lets you know that they don't really want to talk to you right now, or that they're busy. Or that's something that they would often say a lot, is "Olen kiire," or I'm busy, I have something to do. It just made me laugh because I felt like that's just really not something that you would really see. I guess the juxtaposition of here in America, that's I guess maybe not as normal to see someone just walking past and putting their hand up and saying no thank you. But I was grateful for the honesty that the Finns had. They are so loyal and they're so genuine and kind that when you do get to talking with a Finn and you become friends with them, you are friends with them forever. And they are so honest and kind and loving, and I'm really grateful for that. I really appreciate how much pride the Finns have in their country. I feel like that they're very grateful for their land and for their people. Some of my favorite foods that I try in Finland are definitely the rye bread. That's something that Finns traditionally eat on a daily basis. Lohikeito, which is salmon soup, is another one of my favorites. We would often have these meetings where traditional food from Finland was served, and I always looked forward to having lohikeito. Or when Finnish families would feed us, anything that had salmon in it was so exciting for me. I really loved the riisipirrakka, even though they're more like from Karjala. That's a pretty traditional Finnish food that I really liked. It's like a rye and flour crust that's kind of ribboned on the outside, and then it holds a rice porridge in the middle, and it's really buttery, and you toast it and then you put more butter on it, and it's very delicious. A lot of people will eat those throughout the day as snacks or for breakfast. Those were always a treat. And the pulla, which is like a Finnish sweetbread that has cardamom in it. So oftentimes you could even go out on the streets of Helsinki in the morning and it would just smell like pulla, like cardamom, this delicious sweetbread, and it was so good. There's one other food, or rather drink, that I loved in Finland. It's called glögi. It can be made from different kinds of juices, but often it is karpalo. I don't remember what that is in English, actually. Thank you. Cranberry juice. Sometimes it's made out of like currant juice and other berry juices. I've heard of some people making it with apple juice, and then they add different spices. Often anise will be added, or cinnamon. I've actually made it here in the States and it was pretty good. I got a recipe from a Finn. But it's a drink that is traditionally drunk like November through December, and it's typically served warm, but you can also serve it cold. But it just tastes like Christmas. I love glögi. One of the craziest foods that I tried in Finland was called silli. It's pickled herring, and it's almost like how some people would have a lot of different kinds of cheese on a cheese board. You can also find lots of different kinds of silli during the holiday season. Some of the ones I had tried had been marinated with like blueberries, and I think that one was the most tolerable out of all the kinds that I tried. I don't remember very many others, but it's not something that I would choose to eat or choose to purchase, but it's a very traditional food in Finland. Also, they have these little fish, I just remembered some of the fish thing, at markets, and do you remember what
I think it's called like muikku?
Muikku?
Something like that.
Or that could also be what people say when you're like, smile, right?
Perhaps.
People say that. I don't know. Okay, I don't remember what it's called, but there are these fish that street vendors will sell down at markets. You just eat the whole fish. But you have to be careful because sometimes seagulls will come and steal them out of your hand. That has happened a few times. Another crazy food that we had in Finland was called salmiakki, and it's actually like a Finnish candy. It grows on you the longer that you're in Finland, but it's like a really salty black licorice, and and it's something that the Finns really enjoy. They'll put it in chocolate. They will make salmiakki flavored ice cream. You can find it probably in baked goods. Yeah, I know for sure that you can. It's just something that's very a traditional Finnish flavor. But I just remember when I first tried it, I was like, ugh, this is really salty and I'm not a huge fan of this flavor. But the longer that I was in country, I learned to like it, and now it's like an endearing flavor. But it's pretty crazy. I know that my family tried some and they were not fans. There was a woman that I knew in an area I was in Kerava. She is such a dear woman. She's so friendly, and she's actually married to a Finn, but she is Brazilian, so she speaks Portuguese. And she does speak English as well, and she speaks Finnish. But she speaks Finnish definitely better than she speaks English. But she could never remember my last name, so she would always call me Caesar Cornflakes instead of Caesar Goffelt. And so that was one of my nicknames that I was given by her. And she would always give the missionaries nicknames just because she couldn't remember their last names. So that was kind of fun, and she was like a friendly aunt to us as missionaries while we were in Finland. One time I was over with a companion and a member at this man's house, and we were teaching him, and at the end of our meeting, this was very shocking to me, he gave me a kiss on the cheek. And I was very shocked because I felt like that was very out of character, I guess, for the Finnish people. I also felt a little bit honored just because he seemed so grateful for the time that we had spent discussing certain things about life with him. Another shocking thing that happened to me was when we were in Finland as missionaries, a lot of times we would knock doors and ask people if they wanted to learn more about the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. And we knocked on this one door, and this man opened the door, and he just had a towel on, and he was like, well, I'm saunaing right now, or I'm taking a sauna, so if you want to come in, like, you're more than welcome to. And I couldn't think of what to say because I was so shocked that I was like, oh, not as missionaries, but we can come back in sauna when we come back. And it was like really awkward, and he was like, okay, but that was super awkward for me that I had said like, yeah, sure, another time when we come back, meaning that like when we come back to the country we could experience the sauna, but it probably sounded like we'd be back later to come sauna. But that was shocking, and that happened multiple times of when, well, unknowingly to us, because we're from America, we would be knocking doors during people's sauna times, and that is something that is really important part of the Finnish culture as well. Sauna, it's quite a unique experience. So this is also another surprising thing about Finland. People will sauna regularly, or I guess here in America we would say sauna. That's not the correct way of saying it though. We were not allowed as missionaries to sauna, although I really wanted to, but all of the Finnish people that I talked to said it is the most wonderful physical sensation, and you just must do it when you get home or when you come back to Finland. You have to do a true Finnish sauna. Typically you go into this small room. It's made out of wood, for those of you that I guess haven't experienced a sauna or want to know what my experience was like when I did sauna when I got home in a Finnish sauna. And there's these rocks that are heated up, and you pour water on the rocks to create steam in this room, and there's like 2 tiers of benches so that multiple people can do it at the same time. And if you're a true Finn, you go just with no clothes on, and you will take kuivu oksat, or birch branches that you have dried, and while in the sauna you will hit your skin with the birch branches. And I guess it really helps with your circulation is what I've heard. I haven't actually taken, well, first of all, I haven't found birch branches to dry out yet, and the saunas are closed because of COVID. But even in Helsinki, you will see people going from the sauna to the freezing cold water, and then back to the sauna, back to the freezing cold water, and you go back and forth, and it kind of helps with your circulation because it's expanding and contracting your blood vessels and the blood flow. I've heard that it's really good for your metabolism, and it's really great for your health. It has all kinds of health benefits and helps to release toxins. in your body. I'm convinced that that's part of the reason why a lot of Finnish people have such youthful looking skin is because of the sauna and also the fact that they live close to the sea. One other interesting thing is that you'll often see a lot of Finns walking with these things called sauvat, and they're walking sticks. And I asked a Finnish woman once, why are people walking with these sticks? She said it's great exercise. It helps with your posture and it gets your arms moving while you walk, and it helps with your stability if it's icy outside. So that's another thing that you will see in Finland. The biggest differences between living in Finland and living in America. One of them that was big for me was the transportation. So I was mostly taking public transit to the places where I went or walking. And most people, if you live in an urban area like in Helsinki or the surrounding towns, they use public transportation. I would say that probably the majority of the people living in Finland do not own cars, which I think is kind of cool. It's a neat way to live, because in some ways I guess it puts the dependence on other people to do their job, and there's like a trust there that other people will provide the transportation that you're paying for. And then on the flip side, I mean, where almost everyone in America, most people have a car. The air is definitely more clean in Finland. The air quality is better. I want to say, I remember talking with a Finn once and she said something about how like all of the produce that is grown in Finland is already organic. And so that's something that is different in Finland versus America, which I appreciate just because that's better for you. I feel like that also in the grocery stores there's not as many options, and so it's not quite as overwhelming to go to a store and shop because you're not given so many options. Again, I think that relates back to the simplicity and way of life, that you're not given 30 different options of, I don't know, laundry detergent. There might be like 5 instead that you could choose from. They'll often have their malls be like 2-tier, and you won't really necessarily think that it's a mall or a shopping center until you go inside, and then you'll be able to see all of the stores. In Finland, you can also purchase like a flat inside of an apartment building. Like, so if you wanted to like just purchase that apartment within that building, you could own that portion. So you can do stuff to it. You could like build shelves or do different things, but you can own an apartment and not own the whole building, but just own your apartment. I know that this happens sometimes in America, but sometimes you'll have a group of streets that like have a theme. Like in the last place where I lived in Haga, there was a bunch of different streets that were named after musical instruments. So that's pretty common, I feel like, to find in different places, of just like a collection of streets that kind of have a theme within a certain area, and that's pretty fun. You get to learn new vocabulary that way. And I think the biggest difference is just the simplicity of life and how they don't really have the mentality over there that bigger is better. It really is like a less is more kind of mentality, and they don't have so many things like we do here in America. They speak more quietly than we do. And so coming back to America, sometimes you can almost feel like that you're being yelled at, even though you're not, because people just speak. Their volume level is so, it's different than it is in Finland. It's also a lot quieter in Finland than it is in America. I feel like you could walk through a neighborhood and have it be totally silent, whereas in America it seems like there's so many things going on. Walking through a neighborhood, you can hear a lot. I'm really grateful for my experience that I had in Finland, and I don't think that it would have been possible without the Finnish people. In fact, I know that my experience would not have been what it was and of such high quality without the people of Finland. And so I just want to say thank you to you for choosing to be the kind of people that you are, for choosing into simplicity and for being authentic, and for your love and your care. Olen todella kiitollinen siitä, että minä sain olla Suomessa yli vuoden sitten, ja olen kiitollinen kokemuksista, joka minulla on ollut siellä, ja uskon siihen, että kokemukset, jotka minulla on ollut siellä, eivät olisi olleet mahdollista ilman suomalaisten ihmiset, vai suomalaiset ihmiset, Siis kiitos teille ja kiitos siitä, että te hoidatte teidän maasta. Se on niin kaunis maa ja toivon, että jonakin päivänä mä palaan asumaan siellä tai käymään osoittamaan minun kiitollisuus teitä kohtaan.